Hi guys, and welcome to my guide about the ice speed farming version of a sorcerer. Today I'm gonna show you in Dungeon 35 how fast this build actually can be. A lot of people actually told sorcerer will be one of the worst classes, and they will struggle to stay alive, to keep on speed farming. You still got a huge nerf on some of our damage. But if you ask me, it's not about the damage, it's how you actually work around the damage. And the whole idea with this build is basically you just throw out some blizzards and then you keep moving. Since we have the Isus boots on, which give us more crit speed, the faster we are, the faster we move. And if you try to stay alive as long as possible, your ice shard as a passive would actually do most of the work for you. So as you can see, this is a 35. I'm just running around, throwing blizzards. I haven't even touched my ice shots yet. And this is basically the whole build. And of course we died. This is also pushing it a little bit too high, if you ask me. But the whole idea with the build, I will run over it, how it actually works, all of the aspects, the Paragon board. I will have a full version, a full link with the full build, with every Paragon point you need to the end game, with all the nodes in it and all the glyphs and how you actually set it up, everything. So let's start with actually going over the aspects, how this actually works together. So in my helm right now, I have my shared misery. The reason why I use that is because when you are freezing, you are immobilizing, you are stunning, or you are using a chill effect, it actually have a chance to spread out to the next target besides it. And since we are using 4 different card controls, we actually have a lot of chances to actually spread out the different kind of card control. We use the Raiment of the Infinite. Almost every source use this in every build. It's an amazing build. You can cluster them up and you stun them for a while, and it just gives you more defense on top of that. It also gives you a range to your glass cannon that makes you take a little bit more damage, but you actually do way more damage. On the gloves, we have the Flame Shield, the Binding Embers aspect, but the only reason that if you are getting stuck inside of something, you can always press your Flame Shield and run out of it again. On the pants, of course, we're using Disobedience. That's the best armor buff we got in the entire game. It got a huge nerf, but it's still really reliable to actually use in this build, since we need some kind of armor and more defensive builds. On the boots, this is where the whole build is relying on, is the Asus Heirlooms boots. Because when you get more movement speed bonuses, you get a higher crit chance. And the higher crit chance we get works together with our heart. The reason why that is that we have a higher crit damage. Our normal damage is lower, but our crit damage will be higher. So the higher crit chance we have, the more damage we actually do. So as you can see right now, I get a crit chance bonus on 11.9. But if I press my flame shield, it staggers up. If I press my weight, it actually goes up to 38.9% crit chance on top of our normal crit chance bonus. So that's a massive boost we get to actually can keep on doing the damage we actually do, even though we are running through the packs. And when we're freezing them, our passive ice shots will actually kill them behind us. Right now I'm using a wand, which give us more attack speed with the accelerating wand in it. And for the only reason that our ice shots is still our biggest damage boost we got. Since if you're getting to an elite pack, you can freeze them up, you can stun them up. Most of the time, the blizzard would actually kill them. It's not the blizzard that makes the damage, it's the glacial spikes on the amulet. I will show you that in a second. But when you're getting to a boss fight, it is important our ice shots comes out as fast as we actually can get them out. On the amulet, of course, we're using the glacial aspect to the blizzard. That means when you're actually throwing out a blizzard, it's not the blizzard itself that does the damage, it's the ice spikes. One thing we need to remember when we're actually doing this, since our blizzard doesn't make crit, because it's over time, our glacial spikes actually have a chance to crit. As you can see there, that's the whole damage from the glacial spikes we actually did. Of course, we have the piercing cold aspect, since our ice shots needs to pierce through enemies to keep on bouncing, and that have a chance to actually also give us mana back, since we are kind of struggling with mana issues all the way to the end game. But I do have some difference in the end of the video. I can actually show you how you can dodge that and actually get way better mana resource return. On the last ring, I'm using at the moment Band of Control to just get more damage, since we are doing both immobilized, we're freezing them, and we are stunning them. We are doing all of the different things. So all the time we should actually have 25% more damage in our build. And on the offhand right now, I'm just trying out the Conceited, because we 99% of the time have a barrier up. So we most likely always have this damage buff in our build, and how we actually use it. For the skill tree. The skill tree, we always start with the Firebolt, just to get to the next tree down to the core skills. And we're actually gonna enchant the Firebolt because of the burning damage, since we are still using Devouring Blaze in this build. We're gonna max out the ice shots. We of course take the enhanced ice shots, and we're taking the destructed ice shots. So when they're hitting 5 ice shots in a single cast, it makes them vulnerable for 2 seconds. On the defense board, we take the Flame Shield, we take the enhanced Flame Shield, and we take the Shimmering Flame Shield. In the teleport, enhanced teleport, and the Shimmering teleport. We also get one elemental attunement, just for the chance, since we are having so much lucky hit chance that we can actually reset one of our defense skills. So you can either reset the Flame Shield, the teleport, the Ice Armor, or the Frost Nova. We go 3 points in Glass Cannon, 1 point in Ice Armor, and 1 point in enhanced Ice Armor, just for the mana regen, because we're still struggling a little bit. We're going 5 points in Frost Nova. The biggest reason to actually do this is to get the cooldown as low as possible, so we can proc it as many times as we want. We are taking the enhanced Frost Nova, since every time we're killing an enemy frozen by the Frost Nova, it reduces the cooldown by 1 second up to 4 seconds. So if we are jumping inside of a pack with more than 4 mobs in it, we are freezing them and we're instantly killing all of them. We're actually getting a reset, so it's not 16.34 seconds, it's around 12 seconds cooldown. And then of course the Mystical Frost Nova, so we're getting vulnerable on all the targets for 4 seconds we're actually hitting. We get 2 points in Precision Magic to get 10 points, 10% of lucky hit chance. We use only 1 point in a line of the elements and only 1 point in the protection. The reason why I only spend 1 point in the protection is that because the Mana Shield got a massive buff to actually protect us. Before it was 5, 10 and 15% damage reduction. Now it's 7, 14 and 21%. And 21% damage reduction for 5 seconds after we spend 100 mana. That's a massive damage reduction we actually get. And we will use 100 mana really, really quick. In our mastery skills, we go 1 point in the Icy Wheel, just to have a progress further onto the Cold Front. The Cold Front actually gives us more chill. The reason why we need more chill is our Blizzard needs to freeze them faster. Since the Blizzard doesn't do a directly freeze on the enemies, we actually need them to be chilled, and it will go faster for the freeze to actually activate. That's why when you actually just keep running and running and running through the dungeon, everything behind you will always be frozen, and then your ice shot from the passive, which is the second enchantment, will actually just throw out ice shots behind you and actually kill everything on the road. We're going 1 point in the Inner Flames. The only reason we do that is actually to activate the Devouring Blaze. The Devouring Blaze got a massive nerf recently. Before it was up to 150% if you got 6 ranks in it. If you immobilize them, now it's only 60%. So that's 90% damage actually missing right here. I'm still running it. I haven't found a better way yet to actually get something that would help us make more damage. I have actually tried to run without it, and you can definitely see the difference, since it's directly critical strike damage for burning enemies we get, and this build is heavily relied on the critical strike damage and the critical strike chance. Down around the ultimate, we are not using any ultimates but we are maxing out our permafrost since we are doing more damage to leads. We are maxing out the hoarfrost since we are doing 9% increased damage to chilled enemies and 18% if they're frozen. Everything again behind us is gonna be frozen. We are maxing out the frigid breeze for the same reason as I told you before. The mana issues can be a struggle. I do have some kind of fixes you can work around with to actually keep up your mana somehow, but it's nice you actually have a chance to regen some mana when you're just running around in circles or doing events and stuff like that. And of course the icy touch, because we deal 12% increased cold damage to vulnerable enemies, and from our frost nova we actually get vulnerable, and from our ice shots and the destructive ice shots everything should be vulnerable almost all of the time, even the bosses. At the moment, I'm using Avalanche. The only reason is because of the 40% increased damage from our ice shots and our blizzards. So when we're actually fighting a boss in the long run, we have to say we could use the shattered key, but the shattered keys would only be useful while we are running inside of a dungeon or something like that, when they actually explode behind you. On a boss, on a single target where we actually struggle the most, it would be way better to have the avalanche since you're getting a 40% increased damage on the ice shot you're actually throwing out, or the blizzard you're actually throwing out. In the Paragon board, as you can see, I'm level 76 right now. So I'm not done with the Paragon board, but in the link down below, there will be a full Paragon board. Everything is described, even in the notes. So please read the notes if you have any questions or spoke too fast or something like that. I missed something, everything should be written down in the notes so you can actually follow them there. But I will take you through the Paragon tree as I'm using it right now and the progress I made. The first board is pretty similar to every other build we're actually making. I did take some inspiration in Rob's hybrid source as well to actually make the Paragon board. I did some minor tweaks on it, so a huge shout out to Rob as well. But of course, we are first taking the Elementalist node because of the non-physical damage. In the first board, I'm using Elementalist for the simple reason I maxed it out on 40 intelligence. We don't need any more, so don't waste any more points down here. When you're starting it up and when you're building this build, the first node will first be active when you reach level 15 on it. That's really important to know, so you don't waste your Paragon points. If you follow the Paragon board all the way through, from the beginning to the end, and you make a complete copy, most of the nodes won't be active unless they are level 15. So it's really important you get at least all the 6 glyph we are using to level 15 as fast as possible, so you actually get the maximum amount out. But we're using the Elementalist for the simple reason dealing fire, cold, or lightning damage to an enemy increase all damage you deal to them by 5% for 10 seconds, stacking once per element. We are using fire damage, we are using cold damage, and we are actually using lightning damage as well because of the teleport. And then we're working our way up. Of course, we are taking the elemental balance and we are maxing everything out beside it because we get a buff to everything else. The next board we actually go into is the Icefall. Icefall is a massive barrier boost for us when we are killing people and we are just running through them. If we want this speedy, I would maybe recommend to go another way with the Paragon boards and not focus on the Icefall. But when we are moving so fast through everything, it's actually nice to have something when you are killing a frozen enemy. It grants you 50% of your maximum life as a barrier for 5 seconds. It combines with the aspect I showed you before, the conceded aspect. We always have a barrier active. Almost always. And of course, we're taking the Polar Rhyme. We're doing more damage to chilled enemies, more non-physical damage. We're taking the Frost node as well. And then we are actually just trying to figure out, as you can see here, this glyph is actually activated and it's not even 15. But when we are hitting 15, we will actually get some more willpower. That we'll see as soon as this glyph hits level 15, we will actually get 5 more willpower, 7 more willpower, 10 more willpower. We will actually get 22 more willpower on top of this. So it would be a massive damage boost. Chill enemies. We are chilling everything with the Blizzard all the way, all the time. So you will always have this chill effect on them. The next board we are going for is the Frigid Fate. One simple thing about the Frigid Fate, the only reason we went down here is to take the vulnerable damage. And we can actually plug in our Tactician. Our Tactician is buffing every rare nodes around us. And up here is a vulnerable damage node. So we get more vulnerable damage as soon as this one is getting at 15. And we are plugging it up. And we actually need to use both of these dexterity points over here. So you can see it's not active yet. But as soon as I get it in level 15, it will be active in the long run. The next board I'm actually going for right now is the Static Search. A lot of people have actually been questioning why I use the Static Search. But I was thinking, when you're actually using the raiment and you are stunning them, you're combining a big group of mobs into one pack of mobs. Then we are actually stunning them. So our damage to stunned enemies is a massive boost right here. And the next way I will go down here and I will put in my destruction node over here. If I'm not mistaken. This might be my destruction. But as you can see, I still need a lot more points. I still need to figure it out. But there will be a full link down below with the full Paragon board where I can actually see everything. All the nodes in the Paragon board in the end is active unless the two last nodes won't be active because you won't have enough, I think it's dexterity, to actually proc them, if I'm not mistaken. I will see that when I get to level 100. But there will be two of the rare nodes that ain't active. Every other node should be active if you just follow the Paragon board and you have some kind of extra points from some of your gear. Most of the time we actually do that. But you could try and min-max it out. Feel free to try and shuffle things around. Maybe move some Paragon points around. See if you can actually find a minor difference. Maybe something. I used I think it was 150, close to 200 million on the preseason to actually try and make this Paragon board viable and get the max out of it in the end. But as I told you before, we have a lot of mana issues. We do. And I still struggle with it, even though I have taken out a lot of the stuff. Some of the things you can actually do if you don't have a good wand and a good offhand. The wand we only use because of the lucky hit chance. So the higher lucky hit chance, the more mana we have a chance to actually get back. If you don't have a good one-handed setup, you can actually use a two-handed instead. I would always recommend using the accelerating aspect on the two-hand as well, and then just skip out the conceded, because you are losing some kind of your damage, but you're getting a massive boost to your attack speed with your core spells. One of the things you can actually do if you need the mana and you are struggling with mana, you can use the Umbral aspect. Instead of either the control, and then just swap them out directly. Say, I need some more mana because you are using, it says restore, this one is a low roll one, restore 2% of your primary resource when you crowd control an enemy. We are always crowd controlling an enemy, like always. So we have one thing we could do, the Umbral. There's another amazing aspect that's actually called the Prodigy aspect. I haven't found it yet, else I would have shown you. When you are actually using a cooldown, you restore some of your mana. I would say in a boss fight, the Prodigy is way better, because then you can just recycle your cooldowns all the time and keep your mana up. When you're running around outside in the world, you're doing events, you're doing dungeons, the Umbral is a bigger effect and you will restore faster mana because you are crowd controlling so many things so fast all the time. The biggest point to actually get this build to use is the movement speed from the Isus Heirloom. If you haven't got the boots yet, you can actually just use some other kind of boots and doing the flame shield on top of that. When you're doing stuff like that, you actually have to change out and see if you can target farm Isus Heirloom. You can do that in a Helltide. We do know we have a lot of things that can actually drop it now, drop the uniques from chest, the mystic chest, or you can target farm precisely to the boots if you want to do that. You can also try and plug in the the frostburn gloves. I haven't been a fan of it. It has a lot of chance to actually freeze, but right now I can't plug in it because then I can't use my flame shield, since I need the immobilize and I need a get out of jail card, if you can say it like that, and that will be our flame shield, so we can actually move out of things. If you haven't found the raiment of the infinite armor yet, I would heavily recommend using disobedience. That's a hard word to say actually. On your armor instead, and then on your pants, either go for an offensive aspect or maybe a defense one. There's a lot of different things we can actually do to try and run around. In the hearts, just to run this all off. At the moment, I'm using my red full heart. The reason to stagger to enemies, I do more damage to bosses for each crowd control we actually do. As I said before, we are using 4 different kinds of crowd control right now. We are stunning them, we are immobilizing them, we are freezing them, and we are chilling them. So we actually apply 4 different kinds of CC to the target. And the staggering damage and the damage over time comes from our Blizzard. I have been wondering if I should try, I haven't found it yet, the Barber instead, which collects all of your crits and then suddenly explodes in a one hit. But I haven't found it, so I haven't been able to test it out yet. We are using the orange heart. This one, actually. The cage heart of the Tempting Fate. The reason why I use this is because we have so much crit chance from the movement speed we actually gain on top. So we get more crit damage, and we are basically critting every second attack or close to. As you can see, my crit chance right now is 48.2%, and that's when standing still. So again, if I use all of my stuff, I actually get a 27% buff. So we are around 60-70% crit chance all the time. And on in the last one, I was kinda thinking about skipping the Tel Rushes, but then I actually tried it in the build, and I would say don't run any source build without the Tel Rushes in it. The reason you run Tel Rushes is because of the amount of elemental damage we actually do. We are using so many kind of different elements in this build, so you're getting a massive boost. When if you're lucky and you get a good heart, you will actually get up to like 30% boost on your damage, so that's amazing. But for now, guys, that's it. My link is down below to the full build. If you want to check me out, I'm live streaming as well some days over at kick.com/odir. There will be a link down in the description as well. I hope you liked and you enjoyed the video. Feel free to subscribe and comment. If you have any change, this is still my first video I ever made, so I will be amazed if somebody actually told me what I could do different and if I have to do stuff differently. But in the meantime, guys, have fun at your adventure, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.